Hello, my name is Cameron Smith, and today we're going to talk about fine waters. So, you might be wondering, what is a fine water? So, over here you can see defined by the Fine Water Academy, fine water is a form of water from a natural source and is not a processed water. So basically what that means is anything that came from rain or snow that went through the ground and came back up, it was filtered and then mineralized all through Mother Nature, that is what is a natural source. And then a processed water could be from anywhere, and those usually go through reverse osmosis filters and all kinds of filtration and UV light and things like that. And then they'll add a little bit of minerals and electrolytes or whatever they do. But that's a different category of water. So fine waters are all from a natural source. This means that the water comes from either an aquifer, which is a groundwater source, in the form of a spring. That's through gravity, so the snow comes and it goes out through an area. Or it could be from an artesian well or a water table well. And we'll get more into those different types of wells in a minute. So, or the water could come from ice glaciers or harvested iceberg. The water could also be a rainwater in some remote locations or a deep sea water where there's a little bit of fracking used to remove some of the salinity from those. Okay, so for an iceberg water, what we have here is the glacier. There's a little breakage happening with the new iceberg, and then you've got your iceberg just floating in the water. Now, they wouldn't source a iceberg that this is this big. They'd get one a little bit smaller so they could pick it up in their net on a boat and then bring it back to where they melt it down. So water can be sourced by melting down a harvested iceberg. These waters can have a vintage that may date back to the last ice age, which is 15,000 years ago. So unlike wine, where you have a vintage, which is the year that those grapes were harvested, you actually will, the vintage for water happens when the rain goes down, and the length of time that it takes from the rain to go to the area where it's actually bottled is what the vintage is for water. And so then we have, after that, we have an ice glacier water. So as you can see here, the glacier is actually land-based. And so that iceberg is floating in the water. So water can also be sourced from an ice glacier, and this is land-based as opposed to the iceberg, which is floating in the water. So then we have our water table well or an artesian well. So as we can see here, both of these waters are sourced from a hole that's drilled into the ground. A water table well is a water sourced from an unconfined aquifer, and so you can see this right here. So this is an unconfined aquifer. So basically what's happening is if this person here is doing pesticides or has chickens or something like that, these can go into the stream and then could actually go into some of those unconfined aquifers. Now, what you have here is a confining layer, which is known as an aquitard, so that water can't go through it. So this is actually protected in the confined aquifer. And so what it also does is it pressurizes this area. So it's like if you had a Capri Sun and you squeezed it really hard, and then if you put a straw in it, that water would just shoot straight out. So what's good about that is that anything that's coming from this farming or anything like that, that water is always pushing things away from it. And you can see an example of an artesian well right here where the water just shoots out of it. Now, a water table well isn't always dangerous, so let's say that water table well is out in a remote location. So it all depends on where that water table well is. So what are some interesting and exciting things about water? Well, one of them is the world's largest water fountain, which is in Dubai. But that's not really what we're talking about. So each water has taken its own unique journey. They all express their own unique terroir due to the geological formations from which they traveled through. So it's like you're tasting little pieces all around the globe. And it's really interesting to know those stories. So different foods can be paired along with different wines and also different waters, or just different foods and different waters, to make the dining experience even more exciting and interesting than ever before. So everything for the dining experience should tell a story. And where we might have a lamb and we know how that lamb was treated, how the farmer did his farming, or maybe there's a cheese, we know all about that cheesemaker, or the wine, we know all about that winemaker. So having an interesting water menu of fine waters gives the restaurant a whole new chapter, a whole new category of interesting stories to tell about a new topic, which is the water. So water is not just water. This is a quote by Michael Masha, and he is the founder of the Fine Waters and Fine Water Society. And he actually is getting ready right now for the Fine Water Summit, which is a world's tasting event. This year it's going to be in San Sebastian in Spain. So he's actually over there right now getting ready for it. And then he's also the co-founder of the Fine Water Academy. And this is the governing body that certifies water sommeliers. So him, along with Martin Riza, the first person to bring a water menu to the United States of America, he works with him to do all of the teaching for it. So this is the idea that many people so water is not just water. Things that people may never even consider water that they are drinking during a meal, because maybe they did not realize it could be an exciting part of the experience. So that's a famous quote by him. So now we're getting into the terms and the grading systems, the quantification of the different parameters for the waters. And so the first one is the virginality of the water. So this quality term refers to how remote that water source is and how far away it is from pollution and industrial areas. So you could just picture this mountain now all the way out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around it. So the grading system for that is in terms of the amount of nitrates in the water. So that's done through a water test at a lab. And so we have superior, that's less than 1 milligram per liter of nitrates. Very good is 1 to 4. Good is 4 to 7. Acceptable is 7 to 10. And potable is 10 to 50. So if that water was over 50 milligrams per liter of nitrates, you might want to try to fix that, or you might want to drink a different water. So now we have maybe the most important thing to know about the water, which is the minerality level of the water. And the minerality of the water is determined by the total dissolved solids, or TDS. So they can do a test to see how many other items are in that water, any trace minerals or trace elements, by doing a TDS test on the water. And we have a TDS meter here. So super low minerality is 0 to 50. And really, you're only going to find this in an iceberg water or a rainwater, waters where they've never even come in contact with the ground. And low minerality goes from 50 to 250. Now, in the United States of America, any water that is over 250 can be labeled a mineral water. So it must have that amount of total dissolved solids to have that label on it. And then high minerality from 800 to 1,500, and very high minerality from 1,500 and beyond. And we have a couple and beyonds we'll have today. So here is the orientation of the water, the pH. That might even make you feel like you're salivating just looking at that lemon squeezing. But The middle is 7, so 7 is neutral. And with the water calculation, it's a little bit around that. So it goes from 6.7 to 7.3, and that's all classified as neutral. And then when you have acidic, so that is a lower number. So you're usually going to find that with some of the carbonated waters with the carbonic acid. It generally makes it a little bit more acidic. And so that's 5 to 6.7 on the pH. And then there's this one little sweet spot here called hint of sweet. And also it's slightly alkaline. So 7.3 to 7.8, you actually get a little bit of a sweetness to it. So that's why that's that little parameter there. And then the alkaline is 7.8 to 10 in the pH. So next is the balance, which is basically the carbonation level of the water. And so this is in milligrams per liter of carbonation. So with still, there's no bubbles at all. And then effervescent, the 0 to 2.5, the smallest bubbles possible, you might barely be able to tell that there's bubbles in it. You might just feel a little bit of something that feels a little different on your palate, but it's hard to even sometimes see some of the bubbles. Then the light goes from 2.5 to 5, the classic is 5 to 7.5, and bold is 7.5, and that's loud, aggressive bubbles. And sometimes they actually use those for things like cocktails because you're diluting that drink with more alcohol, and so then you still have bubbles in it. And we'll have an example of a high bubble concentration. So, and then there's the hardness of the water. This is actually really pretty easily determined by this equation. So it's calcium times 2.5 plus magnesium times 4, and that equals the hardness of the water. Now, a lot of this is actually really noted by people that are finding water that will go through an espresso machine or your home appliances. So sometimes that can really leave a scale or buildup. But for us, it's good because there's calcium and magnesium, and that's good for us. So, okay, here we go. So we are going to taste our first water now. And I wanted to make sure that nobody drinks all of the water in their glass because you'll be able to go back and forth and retaste some of these. So for our first water today, we have Berg. So Berg is an iceberg water that started its journey over 15,000 years ago. So this is literally from the last ice age. So it's as if you are breathing the air from the ice age, which is a really long time ago. And so you can see the TDS is 10. That is easily a super low minerality water. Okay, so we'll be going from from your left to your right with these waters, and then the one on the right will be the highest minerality. So this is the low minerality water, and I thought we could go around and everybody could say a little something about how it feels. So it's also how light does this feel? Does it feel like it just isn't very weighty, or does it feel light-bodied? You can kind of compare that to drinking a wine. So, okay, so let's go here.
Say it's normal levels.
Light.
Mm-hmm.
It's very light.
Yeah.
Very light. And what about, do you notice any tasting notes with this one?
A little bit salty, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Some whetstone.
What do you
It does
think?
taste like snow, like when you go outside and eat snow.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I just got that feeling as well. It's sort of like when you go out there and you're walking to your car and it just snowed, and it's that expression. I think that's a great one. And what do you think, Caitlin?
I honestly the same thing. It's just like, I don't know, it's like very outdoorsy.
Yeah, like if you're Elsa in your ice castle and you're just drinking your snow. Yeah. Do you feel
Like
Melted
very
ice.
Okay, great. Yep, so that is our iceberg water. And of course, this one has a little bit higher of a price tag on it
I was
because
gonna ask how much that costs.
yeah, it's more for sure. Any iceberg water is going to be more just because they have to take a boat out there, they have to find the right iceberg, they might have the wrong type of iceberg, they have to melt it down, and so this some of these different iceberg waters at a fine dining establishment like ours could go easily for $150 per bottle. Especially Slavardi, that's one of the really famous ones as well, but they are temporarily not making water, but hopefully they will soon. So this next water here, I'll have to pop it up on the screen. This is our low minerality water. So this one here is Smeraldina, and it is an artesian water, so we know that that one is just flowing right out of the source like in our picture that we saw. And I'll pop this up on the screen here. So here we have Smeraldina, and you can see here it actually won a gold medal at the Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting. And next February, I think we should take a field trip out there since it's not that far away from us, and go to it because it's the longest water tasting event in the world, actually, which I think is really interesting. Okay, so this water, the total dissolved solids is 150. So anything over 50 is, and between 250 is that low minerality range. Okay, so let's see. You want to go across the room again with Katrina?
Yeah, I think it tastes kind of like a basic water. It's very fresh.
Uh-huh.
It does feel like heavier than the
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
feel like you can tell like there's a more complex minerality. It's like how this one has like 12 more different minerals than the last one did.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that too. Like at the end, I feel this kind of minerally aftertaste at the end. It's almost like mouth drying a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely mouth drying, and it doesn't have a scent like the first one does. Like this one doesn't smell like anything.
Right. That first one was very aromatic, wasn't it, for a water? Gus?
I feel like this one has a little more weight on the palate, I think,
Yeah.
like Elena was saying. And you started to get that hint of sweetness that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. What do you think, Reagan?
I'm just gonna be redundant.
Okay.
It's heavier than the last one.
So we all agree we can feel just a little bit more weight on our palate with that. But it's still a really low minerality water.
Is that where Mountain Dew comes from? That name, Mountain Dew.
It means mountain of God, and so that's the area. But maybe.
I know.
So this next water here, this one is not going to be on our menu. We're going to have one that is less readily available. This one, I literally just picked it up at Safeway, and you can find it anywhere. We're going to have Valamo when we start our menu, but this gives us an example of a medium minerality water. And so there's not one person that hasn't heard of Evian. That has got to be one of the most known names of water brands in the world, easily. So here we are with Evian. So the TDS of this one is 357. So we will see how that is. Now, each drop of Evian starts as rain, melting on the peaks of northern Alps. It filters through the layers of glacial sands for 15 plus years. So the vintage would be 15 plus years on the Evian. Okay, so how is this one?
It's like
Ah.
chloride forward.
Yeah, a little bit of that sense, and I feel like it's a lot like the last one we just drank, but I don't have the minerally taste at the end. It feels just a lot more fresh.
It's like salty.
Mm-hmm. Really?
A little bit, yeah.
I almost get like a...
Like kind of like Nikki said, like a salty kind of.
Yeah, okay.
taste.
I do taste
Just a
that.
little,
I
not
get,
like-
yeah, right. Yeah, just like a little hint of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Elena?
Yeah, kind of pulling the same lines there. It's definitely heavier, but doesn't feel as fresh as the last one.
I feel like you can kind of tell like that its pH is 7.2 and that's like 1.1 below that like hint of sweet spot. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's right there, but it's not really hitting that.
Yeah, we're really close to it. Yeah. What do you think, Caitlin?
I also got a little bit of like, it almost like cleared my sinuses. Like, you know, when you like smell like isopropyl alcohol or like nail polish remover, like it almost like was like a drying of like your senses.
Yeah, I got that too. When I was rubbing my tongue on the roof of my mouth, it felt almost like sandy for a second. I mean, not like really sandy, but just a little bit. What do you think, guys?
I think that that bicarbonate index is kind of shining through. Tastes a little that I say baking soda, but that component with the sulfur.
Yeah.
and that
Nice.
salt, yeah.
Oh, that's a really good observation, I think.
It's
And
kind of sticky.
what do you think about it, Reagan?
Just like salty. I don't know if it's because it's room temperature, but it's like almost creamier than the last one, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. A little bit more weight, it feels like kind of more creamy. And Reagan pointed out a really good thing is that we're tasting all these at room temperature. So when the water is at room temperature, then you can taste it more. And once you have something really cold, it's actually numbing your taste buds. And so you don't taste as much. It's like having a white wine that's too cold and you can't really get all the flavors from it. But at the same time, I know someone will want a cold water. So we'll do whatever they want to, of course, and they could have cold water. So here is the next one. So 3Base. This one has one of the most interesting stories ever. So the water actually goes down in New Zealand. It goes through ancient tectonic plates and goes through a 600 million year old aquifer to go through a 2,000-year journey under the ocean to surface in Australia. And I just thought that is the most fascinating story because you think, how does that even happen? And evidently these were combined at one point, so it has something to do with older times of the world. So now we are at 3Base. This one is a high minerality water, so we should really be able to tell a difference between that medium minerality water and the high minerality water. And as you can see, actually, another interesting thing is that it won on here a gold medal at the Fine Water Summit. So that is what Michael Masha started at the Fine Water Academy and the Fine Water Society in the Fine Water Summit, which is the competition. So, okay, so what do you think, Katrina?
My first thought was like earthy. It's giving me kind of like an earthy taste. Like you said, it goes through all the ground and everything, the whole travel. So that's what I'm getting. Kind of like an earthy, deep taste.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and what about you, Elena? What's the first impression?
Well, the first thing I noticed is it's got like legs. It like sticks to the side of the glass, like wine might.
Look at that.
And
It's a little thicker.
it's definitely mineral forward.
Yeah. So we have these waters in these glasses so that we can observe it like that as well. That's a great observation. And what do you think, Nikki?
I'm finding this water to be very buoyant in my mouth. It like bounces around. You can kind of tell there's like a viscosity to it in the sense of a very micro viscosity. It's obviously not like lotion, but it kind of feels like it is.
Yeah, a little bit thicker
Yeah.
feeling. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can tell it came from underground this time. Here it's like kind of above ground, and here it's like obviously underground.
Yeah, and the feeling of it is almost like, to me, having like skim milk or maybe like whole milk or something like that. And I actually taste a milky flavor
Yeah.
with
That's what
this
I was
one.
gonna say.
Yeah. And what do you think, Caitlin?
You literally just said it. But this one also had like the most flavor compared to like the first one. Like the other two were just like like on their own, like they just like didn't smell like much, they didn't taste like much. But this one, the first one, had the most flavor. So
Oh
far.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first one was by far still the most aromatic, wasn't it?
They're complex, yeah.
Yeah, for me, this one has almost like a slight fruity, savory note.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
I was
And
gonna say like skim milk.
yeah, it is so skim milky to me as well. Okay, so and the 3 bays refers to these 3 waters. There's all these great, interesting stories, but as far as just kind of breezing through them here. So here we have one of the most interesting waters in the world, and why does it have to be sounding like it's named from somebody on the other side of the city in some sketchy neighborhood? You know, Crazy Water number 4. It almost like sounds like Schlitz malt liquor or whatever, number 2 or something. But anyway, so this is as you can see here, 2,763. This is easily a very high minerality water. So, and actually, I can actually feel it
I was
coming
gonna
out.
say, you can
of-
see how thick it is.
Yeah, it actually comes out almost more like honey or something like that. It just has this thicker feeling, and also having a thin-walled glass like we have right now allows you to feel the weight of the water when you swirl it too, as opposed to a thick, clunky glass. So that's another good thing about the glassware that's used for these waters
Yeah, it won't go down.
as well. Okay, so what does Katrina think about this water?
It's this one's a lot more pungent, I guess the word is. It's like has a lot more flavor than all the other ones, but it's like kind of like a woody taste almost, I want to say. It's very
Oh.
thick. It's
Interesting. Yeah, and what
It's
about?
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It definitely, I mean, it won't even run down the side of the glass when you
Yeah.
swirl it, it just stays right there. But I'm more of like tasting like the bicarbonate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to me, like if that one was skim milk, this is like whole milk. To me, it really has a creaminess, and I feel like the saltiness is a little bit more too.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a little bit of
Probably very
whole milk.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of like when I would put a glass of hot water and put salt in it to like get rid of strep throat or something and gurgle salt water. It's like the remnants of what I used to do there. It's not good. I also feel like it reflects light differently than other waters, which
Yeah,
is
like if
interesting.
you like
It
push this one
does.
around, it moves so much, but versus this one, like this one barely moves.
It's very like I think the differences are a lot more physical than it's like aromatic or
Yeah.
flavor wise. Besides the salt aspect.
Yeah, so it's a lot about this mouth feel. You really feel a huge difference, don't you? Okay, great. And then, what do you think?
I don't like this one. It
Oh,
tastes like
okay.
I just drank a glass of like cream.
It's just really
It's
creamy.
really,
Okay.
really thick.
Yeah. Well, you know, you would drink less of this one.
Yes.
You know what's interesting about this water to me is when I drink this water, I feel a sense of calm, grounding feeling. And I was talking to the National Labs, Ed, and he said there could be traces of lithium in the water. So it could actually make
Sign
you
me up.
feel kind of relaxed and at ease. And I said that to him. I thought, what is that in the water? You know, that makes you feel that way. And I thought it must be. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was magnesium that made it like that. Okay, so now what we can do is we can dump all of our waters into this this handy dandy receptacle here.
Tasting this one
And
to
taste
this
it all
one.
together.
And then we can go through all of the sparkling
Tasting
wines.
The first one is
I mean
so
sparkling
so good.
waters.
But see, after drinking this one, I don't like the first one anymore.
Really?
The first one is my favorite.
What would you
so-
pair the iceberg water with
like the flavor.
comparatively to the crazy
I like
water?
the first one. I like the first one.
So usually the
Yeah, like what would you pair with?
and I think really the ultimate decision is when you actually do it. But as a generality of these kinds of things, the lower ones are sort of like the white wines, and then the heavier ones are more like the red wines. So you generally have things like sashimi fish, yeah, maybe a light prepared fish for some of these other ones, and then we might have venison or lamb or something that's during our main course for those next ones. So everybody's waters are empty because we're gonna fill them all up.
Thanks,
Oh,
Cameron.
they're sturdy too.
Yeah, they're sturdy. That was a good quality control test.
Yeah.
Thanks
My
for
jacket
showing how strong our glasses are.
After the crazy water, I hated the rest of them.
Really, was the crazy water one of your favorites?
Well, it wasn't at first, but then when I went back to the other ones, it's like they tasted like not as close as I thought. They didn't taste
Yeah.
as good.
Well, and also, here's
It's
the
like
big
it changed
thing.
my palate.
Is the big thing from the Fine Water Academy and the Fine Water Society is the idea that there is no best water. You know what I mean? So these waters are all just different, and it's all just the context in which you have them. So you could have a water that at first tastes weird, and then once you have the correct food with it, you go, oh, this is it. It's sort of like a wine that tastes really tannic and it's just too strong, and then you have the food with it, and the light goes on, and you say, oh, this is why. It's that match. So, okay, so here we are. We are now going into sparkling water. And we're starting with the first one here called Perlage. It's sourced from a 320-foot deep aquifer. It takes a 400-year journey through the ground. So this is the vintage is 400 year on the first one here. So Perlage, it also refers to, see this gentle fizz. So what they're trying to emulate here is bubbles in a fine champagne. Something that has a good consistent bead. It's not a large, big bubble like we'll taste later, but it's more of a nice kind of mouth-coating little bubble that is really pleasant for you.
So how does the water get the bubbles?
I was about to say,
So-
is it naturally
Like, yeah, how does
bubbling?
that-
Yep, so
Really good.
yeah, so there's different ways. Some of them are naturally carbonated, and some of them are added carbonation. So this is an added carbonation water. So they took the water and then they injected the CO2 into the water. Now they use now look at the bubbles on
Yeah,
this.
it's really cool. It's like bounce.
All right, so what does this taste like? All right, so what does Katrina think?
Kind of limey. I kind of get a lime taste. Is what I'm getting. Almost like it's like Sprite almost.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Like a,
Yeah,
Like a flat Sprite.
and so see the pH is 5.5. So we've been tasting a lot of waters that were in the 7s, and now it's like,
This is acidic, right?
yeah, right. It tastes. I mean, making that jump is
Very.
big. What do you think, Alina?
Yeah, same thing is very acidic. It's like got a bite to it.
Yeah, and kind of lime is very
Limey.
like an acidic thing. Yeah.
It kind of tastes like you dropped the Alka-Seltzer in there already.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
it's,
that's
but it's
true.
natural, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is an added carbonation.
Okay, but like
Yeah.
the water flavor, I would assume doesn't really have anything to do with the CO2, does it, or does it have to?
Not in this case, but with the other ones, it will. And that is due to a magma source where that heat will bind the CO2 into the water underground. And so it's a very rare thing to have naturally carbonated waters, and it's a really special thing to have. But most of the carbonated waters in the world, they add carbonation to it. So, and what does Caitlin think?
I really like this one. I feel like if you like put like a little drop of like some like flavored anything in it, it would be like perfect.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
almost,
feel like it would pair with like anything.
yeah, I was thinking like ceviche
Yeah.
or something that is already acidic
Mhm.
and something that'll just harmonize with it, like what you're saying.
So good.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah,
Chris?
it's like this tingling effect on your taste buds. It's kind of like it's pushing everything aside.
Yeah, and right. I was almost thinking like the same thing. Like, yeah. Okay. Well, good. So this is the Perlage, And then now already we are already at 440, so we're starting at a medium minerality water. All right, so now Ferrarelle. This is the most consumed water in Italy. So this is a really nice one, and it's an artesian. It's a naturally carbonated water. So so this one is from close to a magma source, and yeah. So you know what I like about the name is Ferrarelle. Kind of sounds like a Ferrari.
It's like smoking.
Yeah, and by the way, there are more interesting stories about these different waters. There is one of the different minerals in this water is really known for things to help with stomach ailments, and so the water is known for that actually. And so here is the Ferrarelle. So
I think that's the what we're doing.
our TDS is already high. So we went already from medium to high. All right, so first of all, what is the bubbles, what do they look like?
Teeny tiny.
Uh-huh.
They're small, but they're plentiful.
Yeah, and then they seem to go away a little bit.
I can't retain any bubbles.
First
But when you swirl it, it
smells
splashes on
like a
your
patty
nose.
cake.
Bubbles actually seem like a little smaller, like at first.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like kind of like softer, but like more.
Smells like a changing room at a pool.
No, it smells like a penny.
Yeah, so did we go around yet? Did you say something yet?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I think I could like taste it before it even touched my tongue.
Yeah.
In a way, like you could already smell it when it was going in and everything. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think the flavor's just good.
Mm-hmm. Great, and Elena?
It's definitely more bubbly. And it's like, even when you drink it, you still feel the bubbles in your mouth. They don't disappear as quick as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have like a tangy taste though.
Opinion, I think it's disgusting. Factual, I think it's super chlorinated. Like it just like
Is that what it tastes like
yeah,
to you?
it tastes like chlorine.
And that's why you don't like it?
I guess
Because
so.
it has a
It
chlorine.
tastes like it's not obviously clean, but it just tastes like dirty water to me.
Okay.
It's weird.
And some people are more sensitive to certain things too, so
Yeah.
they might not.
I don't like
certain
normal
things.
sparkling water as a base, so it's like hard. This one's difficult.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could imagine. And Caitlin, what do you think?
Very similar to what Nikki said. It's okay. I feel like I would only drink it if I'm having trouble with digestion. Like I feel like it would like really help. Like I don't know, bubbles and like carbonation like really help. Like get the food down.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it tastes like a dirty, disgusting home.
Yeah.
Like home? Tastes like home?
Yeah, this is the water I drink when I'm back home in Italy.
Uh-huh.
I love it.
I don't think it's that bad, but I do kind of get like water up the nose and pool kind of flavor.
Really? I don't know why I'm not getting that as
pool,
much.
Right, I'm
I'm-
not getting pool.
When I smell it, I smell pennies. So I don't know if those correlate at all.
That is what I was thinking. Like I'm tasting more like magnesium, calcium, kind of. To me, it's more
Maybe
like
that's what it is.
yeah.
Maybe they influenced me.
The aftertaste
Yeah.
is-
And you know, it's like cheese. You know, not everybody's gonna like the same kind of cheese. Like some people hate blue cheese, and you go to the next table and they say, "I want 5 blue cheeses." You know, so it's all kind of, and that's why having a selection, you know, gives you the opportunity to pick one that you like. Okay, so here we are to Vichy Catalan. The TDS is 2,900. We're already in very high minerality range. This is the spa here. So you can go bathe in these waters. Hopefully with our spa, we'll be able to bathe in our waters as well, just like them. And so this one, as you could guess, like our foie gras Catalan, we got Vichy Catalan from Catalonia. So we can go here. This is over at
Third one.
number 3 here. And so here is Vichy Catalan. This one's really pretty famous, and like what Gus was saying about, there's a lot of people in Italy that drink the Ferrarelle. There's a lot of people in Spain that drink Vichy Catalan. So this is a very popular water in Spain, and so a lot of them will be drinking this one, and let's see what we think about it.
It's splashing.
Yeah, it looks like alcohol.
Wow.
It's like that.
I don't like it.
Don't get it.
I don't like it.
I really
Okay.
don't want to swallow it either.
Me either.
It's so
It's
much.
like
It's also like thick.
It's
pop rock salt.
thick and it's salty and
It is very, very, very salty.
if it was
Wow.
more bubbly,
Yeah.
maybe it
Yeah.
would distract me from it.
Now think of this though as like the seasoning on something else. So let's say you had like an avocado that was plain, and then you eat that avocado, and then you drink something like this. Then the two things work together like that. So I would think a lot about how these are going to be put together. But so going around the room, what do you think, Caitlin? I mean, Katrina. Sorry.
Very, yeah, like a salty, kind of like, just very attacking on the palate. It's very sharp.
Uh huh. Yeah, it's known for the sodium, which is important. We need sodium. And what do you think, Colleen?
Same thing. It's like it's confusing because it's sparkling, but then it's also heavy
Mm-hmm.
and very salty.
Very salty.
Yeah.
The bubbles are forward yet fleeting.
I understand that.
Well, I'm just letting you know how I feel about it.
Yeah. No, that's good. Honesty is always the best.
aggressive.
So.
It is an aggressive glass of water. It's extremely.
It's like fighting back.
Yeah, I would love to have something to eat with it.
Yeah. Oh
For
yeah.
sure.
Absolutely. And
It's
Caitlin?
almost a little sweet at first too,
Uh-huh.
like right on their lips. But when you said it would be good as like a pairing, I started thinking about it a little bit more, and it had a little bit more like a better flavor in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely I would drink it with food, but it's also like I'm drinking water, but I'm dehydrated. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those like I wouldn't have a lot of it.
Not an all
Yeah.
day drinking
Yeah.
kind of water. Yeah, absolutely.
This would be like the nightcap type of glass of water.
Yeah, a little digestive, a
Yeah.
little something at the
Absolutely.
end. Yeah, that's what Lindsay was thinking too. Yeah, savory. Yeah, that's a great way
Yeah.
to describe it. So yeah, definitely, without a doubt, we know that is really like that. All right, so here we go with Saratoga. So this one will also not be on the menu, but it's an example of really big bubbles. So this one's neutral and it's a low mineral. See that? You can't even barely open the thing without it shooting out. So here is Saratoga. Now, an interesting thing about Saratoga is that they actually don't even use the original source anymore. And to have a spring water, you have to label where that spring source is. And so there's two sources on here, none of which are even in the state of New York. So they're just almost at this point just kind of using the name. They might bottle it there, but that's how that one is. All right, so we are on our second to last
is
water,
low
and we're doing well. Actually,
Really, yeah.
pretty good on time. And so now with this one, what does the bubbles feel like to you?
Super foamy.
They feel like stabbing.
Yeah, it's almost like, to me, it's almost like pinpricks. It's
Yeah.
almost a little painful. Yeah, but it's light. You know, it doesn't have that weight of some of the other ones.
Sounds good.
So that one
That one
is easy going, and I think it's really something you can have with other things too that you add to it as well. So here we are with our final water for the presentation, and we are now at Roy. So Roy is from Slovenia, and it is old rock basin here. And the TDS is 7,481. So this one is, if we thought that this one was high at 2,000, 7,000. So, seawater, the ocean, if you go to the beach or something, that is 35,000 TDS. So that's still a lot higher. That's why you can't drink the water from the ocean. So here we are with the Roy. This one is also known to be a really good digestif or a nightcap. It can go along with some chocolate, and also this one is really, really high in magnesium, which is important for many different systems in our bodies too. So this is interesting. So before you had doctors, or way back when you might have more harm from a doctor than good, these people would go to these water sources because these were where the medicine came from. Now, first of all, I was hoping we can just smell the water. So when I smelled this one,
Smells like
I-
a rock. It's
I-
like a forest, yeah.
Wow.
this one to me was really noticeable.
Yeah.
As soon as you opened it, I smelled it.
Now, to me, when you're talking about like going into like a bathing water, like a indoor pool or something, I mean, it's not exactly like that, but it has a strong note, and that could be a few things.
Yeah. It does smell like a hot spring in a way.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
like, it's okay if you drink it, but we prefer you not to. But kind of thing.
This
Yeah.
one's very foamy too. This one I think is, I would say, foamier than the last.
Wow, and you can tell when you drink this, it's almost like when you bite into foie gras and you feel this kind of richness flowing throughout you. This to me is like that in the form of water. I mean, I can feel this, like, wow, what did I just drink here? You know?
To me,
It's like I need to wash it down with another water.
this is like sitting in a chair at the dentist's office.
Yeah.
It does taste like dentist water.
You know, they like have like a lot of bubbles.
Fluoride.
Yeah.
And if you were to like take a spoonful of those bubbles and eat them, that's what this tastes like.
Ah,
It's
they,
like
uh-huh.
you just took like literally a spoonful of bubbles and put it in your mouth.
Great. Well,
Stinky for sure.
Does anyone have any questions at the end here before we wrap up our video?
How much would the water pairing cost for a guest?
We'll figure that out eventually. But right now we're just developing the menu and everything. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be amazing.
I think I would love to try this, like one of them with like an example of like what you would pair with.
Oh,
just
yeah.
to like understand what you're trying to do here.
Absolutely, and we'll be able to taste things. I'm sure with chef and everything, we can taste them together and see how they go. But I wanted to thank you all for coming, and Michael and Martin, I hope you enjoyed that. Bye.